Thank you all so much for being here with us to discuss this really important topic. This is what we're talking about. I am going to be talking fast. We had so much to talk about, but we've timed ourselves. So I'm timing myself so that I can move aside in time for my colleagues to have all their time. I'm Dr. Antoinette Taylor of AT Exceptional Consulting. I am the former chairperson of the Illinois Task Force on Truancy in Chicago Public Schools and the Illinois Attendance Commission, which sunset December 16, 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. So there you have it. Quanshanda Nicholson is the principal of James Avant Elementary School in East St. Louis, and my colleague, Mike McGreevy, the dean of Rolling Meadows High School. A little bit of information about myself. That's me. You can always connect with me afterwards if you want to know more. This is Quanshanda's information. And then I wanted to kind of rush to get to this because when we did our run through of this, is anyone in here a Suits fan? Like the real Suits, not the one that just started last week. The Suits that was on USA Network. Anybody ever saw that show? Okay, so like you and I are going to be right here. So the head attorney was Harvey, and his administrative assistant was Donna. And they had this running joke between them, which they never explained on the series, about the can opener. You know what I'm talking about? So whenever Harvey was getting ready to go into trial, they had this ritual that they would do with a can opener. Never explained what it was, but throughout the series, they would say, can opener time? Yes, can opener time. So when we did our run through it, and Mike had that up here, I was like, another can opener situation. What are we talking about? He will explain what that means to you itself, but it was not the thing from Suits. Okay, chronic absenteeism, how it started. Quite honestly, it started with a news report from the Chicago Tribune called An Empty Desk Epidemic, came out in November 2012. That epidemic series focused on children K through 8. And guess what? They were missing a lot of school. Kindergartners, first graders, second graders. Now, these are not the students whose parents are saying, I don't know what's happening. We're driving them to school and they're getting out the car and going in the front door and walking out the back. When kindergartners, first graders, second graders are not in school, something is happening, and it's more than just why aren't the teachers finding them? Why aren't the teachers finding them? Community things are happening. Family engagement needs to take place. But the biggest thing that they found from this report is that the students that were missing the most school were students with disabilities. Students with, see, I love it. You all got this thing. Yes, Dr. Taylor. Okay. Students with disabilities, students of color, students identified as male at birth. It was such that the legislative body wanted to take it a step further than a Chicago Tribune story. So a resolution was formed to have a task force on truancy in Chicago public schools. One of the recommendations from the study that the task force did was that we needed a standing commission on attendance in Illinois. Why? Because when we did our public hearings, the masses were coming in saying, you all need to know this is bigger than the city of Chicago. This is huge. And not only that, but we had affluent districts emailing the task force saying, you should see what's happening in our district. So this is not the districts where, you might find a lot of poverty. It was widespread. So we recommended that there be a standing commission. That law was passed in 2015. Just so happened that Illinois was ahead of the curve because as the Every Student Succeeds Act was being written in D.C., a lot about chronic absence was put into Every Student Succeeds Act. So quite literally, everything that we had put in, like, well, what is the commission going to do? And we do have a portal with the links to all of this. So I know I'm talking fast, but you can look at everything from the task force and the attendance commission. All of it's archived, but it's live. You can pull it up. We had 5 bullet points that we needed to study for the attendance commission. ESSA comes out, and guess who was ahead of the curve? Illinois. So quite literally, we had our first attendance commission the first part of December. By the middle of December, when ESSA was signed, I was on a conference call with former Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan. Here's some of the things that we were looking at to study. We're one of the first states that said we cannot stop at kindergarten. If we want students to be college and career ready, we need to find out what's going on in pre-K. We need to find out what's going on with, see, I got to be quiet, you all. Okay, so that's the rest of it. The work in Illinois spans the office of Governor Pat Quinn, State Superintendent Koch, Governor Bruce Rauner, State Superintendent Smith, Governor Pritzker, and State Superintendent Ayala, and it sunset on December 20th. I'm going to hand it. Okay. Can you give me that time? I got you. Okay. Thank you. Because we want to get to the part where you all are talking to us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay,
so how's it going? Where are we now? I am Quanshanda Nicholson, principal at James Avant Elementary School in East St. Louis. Right here, I have the demographics of our school and our population in East St. Louis School District 189. James Avant, we have a population of 343 students. We also service the elementary ELL student population for the district, which is 18% of our student population. Our current average daily attendance, right now, we're sitting at 93.23%, and our school-wide goal is 95% for the entire school year. In 2023-24, our chronic absenteeism rate, we ended at 38%, which is still higher than the state. But as you will see, as we go along, you'll see we have made some improvements over the years. So I wanted to give you a little data. Data always drives all of our decisions that we make in the district. So I wanted to give you an overview of pre-pandemic and some of where we are after pre-pandemic with our chronic absenteeism. First, I'll go over the East St. Louis School District as a whole. Going back to 21-22, we were at 68.7%. And if you can see, the state was at 29. In 22-23, we were at 64.5. We've decreased some, but not a whole lot. And then in 23-24, we ended at 56.1%. which we were able to increase our chronic absenteeism overall for the district last year. So District 189, we have a three-pillar approach to recover. During our chronic absenteeism, we like to use this approach to recover, re-engagement strategies, also intervene and with our family and student support systems. Lastly, we incentivize and we have different attendance reward programs throughout the district. So I want to kind of go over our journey as a school, our school at James Avant, taking you back to pre-pandemic. In 2017, we were at our highest chronic absenteeism rate at 65.6%. So this was pre-pandemic. So we were rather high before the pandemic hit. And then in 2018, 2019, we did see some decrease in our chronic absenteeism. We were able to put some things in place to help assist us with decreasing our chronic absenteeism. And then the pandemic hit, and you kind of see that slope in our chronic absenteeism rate. So we ended last year at 23-24 at 38%. So we were able to decrease our chronic absenteeism from 22 to 23, from 49% to 38%. That's an 11% decrease. Currently today, we're sitting at 27%. Our goal is to reach the 25%, But of course, with everything that we have going on with the days that we've had out for snow days, we have the sickness going on. Our goal is to at least 30% or lower. So we have made significant improvement, as you can see, from 2018 to 2014. From 2018 to 2024, we've decreased from 65.6% to 38%. So we are steady. We're showing positive progress on our data, and it continues to decrease as we move ahead. So some of the things that we've done to tackle our chronic absenteeism rate, we created an attendance task force team at our building level and our district level. And this team focused on analyzing the data and implementing interventions and strategies to improve attendance. So we wanted to make sure that we have a team that focuses only on attendance, identifying those students that are chronic absentee students, and making sure that we have interventions and plans in place. This team consists of the admin team, which is the principal, the assistant principal, our director of family engagement and student attendance service, our head officer, which is our homeless attendance and truancy officer. We have an attendance clerk, social workers, our PBIS intervention specialist, along with our classroom support staff is a part of this team. So this team meets monthly to review the data and go over all of our strategies, what's working, what's not working, what other action plans we need to put in place to target those students. So some of our prevention strategies that we have implemented at James Avant has been a school-wide attendance action plan, which is created by our attendance task force. And in that action plan, it focused on the incentives, the notifications, our truancy letters. We also created this attendance tracker. And this attendance tracker, we began tracking students from day one of their absences. So we're able to monitor who is chronic and what interventions we need to put in place for those students. So the head officer and the attendance clerk is responsible for checking this and making sure that the data is populating into our attendance tracker daily. So that way we know if we need to do parent conferences, if we need to create individual action plans for our students that are on this list. So we also have a systematic attendance tiered support. So we do tier our students based off of their attendance. We try to make sure at the beginning of the school year, we have attendance contracts that go out to every student in our building. And we have those conversations with the parents during PTO meetings, also any PBIS assemblies, award days that we have during the school year, to make sure that they understand that attendance is our number one focus. Because if we do not have our students sitting in the classroom, they are not learning. We also have, we focus on our social-emotional learning piece. That is a huge piece when we're looking at attendance, because you have to focus on your culture and climate as well to make sure students want to come to school. And doing our surveys and our research with the students, you know, we ask the students, is it a nice place to come? Is it nurturing? Do you feel safe? Things like that. And that plays a lot into students coming to school every single day. We identified some of our barriers and what would be some of our resolutions to those barriers. We have monthly attendance team meetings and school leadership team meetings where our task force team meet with our school leadership team meeting and we discuss all of that data. So it's a collective. Everyone in the building takes a part of our attendance plan. We have a communication framework that starts with robocalls. We know that when we have those attendance slopes, where we might be out for Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, we see our attendance kind of dwindles down. So we try to get those robocalls out and make sure that the parents know we're ready to receive the students, make sure that they're coming in. If there's any assistance that you need, please let us know. So we try to make sure we stay ahead to make sure that the students are coming in. We have direct phone contact with the parents. Anytime we have a student that has missed 2 consecutive days, our support staff and our attendance clerk, along with our head officer, begin to call parents and say, hey, we see that Tommy is not at school today. What's going on? Do you need some assistance? So we try to keep that communication framework and that line open with the parents. We also have home visits that our head officers, they conduct home visits when a student has missed 3 consecutive days. So they actually go out to the homes to talk to the parents to see where the students are. And then if we need to, we will have the parents come in. We go back over the attendance contract and kind of see how we can assist with making sure that the students are at school. So we have building-wide recognition programs, which I'm sure everyone in the building is doing if you're a building principal. Each year we have a theme in our building. This year, our theme was building tomorrow's future by educating the whole child. And we have this theme that's under construction. So, of course, our attendance wall is building A+ attendance. So each week, our attendance officer, we select students that we're targeting on our attendance tracker. And those students, if they're caught at school all week, they go up on the wall. So they come down, we celebrate, we make an announcement. It's a big to-do over the intercom on Fridays. So we also have the Perfect Attendance Superstar monthly raffle. We also enter our parents into this raffle because we have to make sure we have that communication with the parents and they understand how important it is to make sure that your students are at school. So we make sure monthly the parents enter a raffle. We may give out laptops. We may give out Chromebooks, anything that we think the parents can benefit from, gift cards and things like that. We have the Rise and Shine I'm on Time program, which is we have some students that have been identified as chronic tardiness. And we know with elementary school, the parents are the ones responsible for getting them to school. So we have to make sure that we have the students want to come to school to make sure that the parents are, engaged and understand that attendance is our number one focus in order to have them succeed in school. So school recognition events, we have PBIS. We give out recognition and awards during our PBIS ceremonies monthly with the students. We have Fun Fridays to identify those students that have perfect attendance and good attendance. So our major event is our attendance-based field trips, which we have those twice a year. So first semester and second semester. So we do one in December, and then we do one in May. And so we take the top students with 90% or higher, and they are able to go to skating, or they're able to do jump for attendance, which we rent out like Sky Zone, places like that. And we had over 270 students to attend that last year. This is just some more incentives that we have throughout the building to promote perfect attendance throughout the building with our students. The teachers have classroom action plans for attendance as well. So they may be able to eat lunch with their teacher, or they'll get an extra 30 minutes of activity time. So we have all of those different things that we are also implementing: ice cream socials, attendance treasure chest, and things like that within the classroom. So we try to make it a school-wide attendance plan that everyone has also in their classroom. We identified some external barriers, transportation. We have our McKenty-Bento families, which are in transition. We know that can be an issue with attendance, childcare, family resource connection, extended break planning, things like that. Anything that we identify as a barrier, we try to make sure we have an action plan and an intervention for those barriers. Moving forward, some of our action steps, continue to monitor data and continue analyzing our data, enhance existing interventions that we have in place. And we also work closely with our board to make sure that the district, if they have any funding that they can help us with, we try to make sure that we stay in direct contact with our director of family engagement and student attendance. That my kind of Okay, so if you would like any of these resources, we do have these. It's linked in with the PowerPoint, so I will move out the way.
So I have a 4-year-old. I call her the feral 4-year-old. She's pretty wild at home, and she reminds me all the time that I'm old. And that picture was the old-fashioned hole puncher. When I started taking attendance, I would take the sheet, the roster, and Sally's not here, Joey's here, Jimmy's here, and then we put it on this sort of like hook on the back of the door. And Miss Lenore McCann, the sweetest secretary ever, would go around and she would make laps. I mean, they didn't have pedometers in 2004, I think, on phones yet, but she would have had 30,000 steps because she had to do that every class period, not just like once a day, So that's kind of just to show how old I am and how complex attendance has become. It was very simple back then. We only had 3 codes. You were here, not here, or you were class cutting, and I've been in high school. So we message this out to parents, kids. We basically try to make it as simple as possible, but we do bombard with messaging. We let them know that they shouldn't miss too much, obviously, unless obviously extenuating circumstances, mono, pneumonia. There's all kinds of, we know which circumstances those are. Make ADA a thing. I knew we made it when I was at Morton West. We had 3,600 students, 3,100 low income at Cicero-Berwyn area, if you know the area. And I knew we made it when my head nurse came by, or one of our security guards would come by on like a snowy day or whatever and say, "What was our ADA today? Did our ADA take a hit?" It's like, oh, wow. Everybody's starting to care about this. This is good. Now, that didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took about 4 years at Morton. We went from about 86 to 90% when I left there and headed to Rolling Meadows. Make sure those protocols and procedures are clear. It was very helpful when the school nurse knew to tell a student, hey, if you miss 2 more days, this is what's going to happen. They'll do a home visit. We did about 400 to 500 home visits a semester at Morton when we were there. The regular messaging, again, you can't do that enough, obviously. The power of the phone call, that is like superpower all of a sudden. Going back, I feel like I'm going back in time to the hole puncher, but you cannot overemphasize the power of a phone call. It's amazing, especially at the high school level. The parents aren't always really up to speed. Like I said, we had 3 codes when I started. Now we have about 14 different codes. Unauthorized absent. We have college visit codes, all kinds of different codes. And as Dr. Taylor and Principal Nicholson said, the attendance challenges were there well before COVID. COVID obviously added an extra pepper to the gumbo for us, but and making it even more challenging. But essentially, the same challenges have been around. The attendance interventions, as Principal Nicholson said, that is key. That is. I think that's every reason we all went into education, is to make school students home away from home. That is our overall rudder, if you will. And that's where the student service people come in. I call them the Avengers or the superheroes, the counselors, social workers, psychs. But that is really kind of where they come in on that end. The competitions can be fun and easy and actually relatively inexpensive. Most of those things we did, we only had to pay for the dunk tank, and the pizza parties for the most part. Everything else was really donations. If you reach out to different programs, you'd be amazed how many will just say, yeah, here's 2 tickets to a Bulls game. Here's a Jersey Mike's coupon. Here's Dunkin' Donuts showed up to our school with a huge truck, and they gave every student and staff member a $5 gift card. And there were 4,000 people in Morton West. So, I mean, and that cost us nothing. So it doesn't take much. And again, you got to work hard to find the funds, right? Different grants, PBIS funds, what have you. The deans really got the students really got into this with the deans. I can tell you that. So I went in as well. So we went from at Rolling Meadows, where I'm at now. Our goal this year was 91%. We're right about there. We're hanging on by a thread. Last year it was 88%. But after the first semester, we were at 91.18%. That might not sound huge, but I think we all know incremental progress is huge. So that was about 7,500 more classes, sections of classes that were attended than a year ago. So, I mean, it can be done. You really have to think in incremental steps. And again, it takes everyone to improve attendance. Security guards say, hey, Joey just walked out door 5, then you got to call Joey's mom and let her know. But it is an all team effort, obviously. Again, the student services, I call that the vital link. Again, those are the superheroes. They're doing all these things all the time, and you have to have it on a consistent basis, almost where the students are expecting to walk in and say, oh, do I have another Saturday again like the last one? That's kind of all part of it. Teacher-driven data is huge for MTSS, obviously, and then the celebrations for students. One thing we did that really went over well was resilience breakfast. Each student services person would just pick one student. We would have a breakfast at the end of the year, and it was just for progress. They didn't have to have all A's. They didn't have to have perfect attendance, but it was, hey, look, this is where you were at Halloween, and here we are now in May. That's pretty awesome. Parents were invited as well. I'm a huge fan of teachers. They was a huge impact on me. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for 2 or 3 teachers that I still remember fondly. Sister Eldefonse and Brother Charles. I was afraid of them, but they believed in me. And on common ground, they do make a difference. I just wanted to remind all of you, never underestimate your impact. The student that's probably making the least noise in the room is probably listening the most to you every day. So just thanks for all you do for all of us and for all our students. And I think we're opening to Q&A.
Yeah. Let's see. And I saw the last, just the trip ago, people were up here, some people were doing that. We do know what that means. We're not that far gone. We know, when the spoken word goes out, if you're at church, you do this. When you're at a conference, you do this, okay? So here's the part we wanted to get to. So a couple of things. Panel, when we were doing our planning, we were calling this the panel-ish discussion. Certainly, if you have any questions for myself or my colleagues here, we want you to ask them. Ish part comes into, we want to hear from you. Obviously, we have been impacted by COVID-19. As you heard my colleagues say, chronic absenteeism, truancy, they were not invented in March 2020. We saw up here, 2012, we were trying to mitigate it. And right around 2020, as we were coming into January 2020, the attendance commission, we were like, we are on target. We sunset December 15th. We hit all our markers March. We are transitioning everything to the virtual space, and everything blew up. But we kept looking at our data and letting our data inform us. And in fact, one of the last things in our last report, we encouraged the General Assembly, we encouraged the state superintendent, we encouraged the governor's office not to tie in everything to COVID, because we had enough evidence to show, hey, things were a little wonky before we got there. Exasperated, yes, but not invented by or because of. And so as we stand here today in 2025, this Saturday is March, February 2025, this is an important subject. And it's so crucial to the Success Network because of the communities that you have. You have community where businesses are involved. You have communities where you can define and say, are we doing anything with our early childhood colleagues? How community-based are we? How much are we listening to our students? Our high school students, our middle school students. The Success Network is built with such a spectrum of people, of all walks of life. This is really where it's great to have this conversation. So we want to open the floor up to you, first of all, if you have any questions for myself or either of my colleagues. And then if not, we really want to have where do we need to go? Like, where should we go? Where do we need to go with this topic for the good of all of Illinois? So any questions for our panelists? Yes.
I'm just curious about the absenteeism and how is that? How do you think about that? If you think about actually.
So in our building, we do focus on staff attendance as well. So we have monthly staff attendance raffles for our teachers as well. What we're seeing is if you work in your closer employment, employed, and we focus on the socio-emotional for the students, what's happening is we saw a need to work on our socio-emotional for our teachers. So one thing that we did in our building, which we were grant funded and was able to do this, we were able to create a space in the teachers' lounge. We have massage chairs. We have aromatherapy. We have, they have like their own refrigerator, ice maker. Like we asked them what did they want, if they could create a room at work where they could go and relax and unwind for about 10 minutes or on their planning. And we were able to create that, and we have seen our teacher attendance actually.
Yeah. What type of course which you got food stuff you taking food?
Oh yeah, we do monthly things where we actually take food around to the teachers. When we have a popcorn day, and they have just showing them that we're grateful that they're coming in. Because it's not like that across the entire district, but we're working as a team collectively as a district to try to get our teacher attendance rate up soon. But the culture and climate is the main thing. Because if I don't want to come to work and I'm having multiple things going on as well, how am I coming in giving 100% to my students? We're asking them to show up, but we're not able to come in and give them what they need. So we have to make sure they're okay as well.
And that question was posed to myself as the chair during the time of the attendance commission. And we had to proceed very gingerly because you're talking about, is there a correlation between teacher attendance and student attendance? And so as we were looking at the literature around that, we found some things that showed that. For instance, students with disabilities, if they're in a classroom and the teacher there is a substitute, or like in Chicago Public Schools, they might call them a cadre or long-term substitute, we saw a correlation with student attendance. And families were saying, there's no special ed teacher in there, my child's not getting the services, so, right? And so we really had to answer that gingerly, because everything is supposed to be of a positive impact, right? Assume positive intent. So if teachers are not present, you really are looking at things like the 5 Essentials survey. We really found that data from that 5 Essentials survey, if districts were using it and not kind of like, we did this, don't put any more e-blast out, Mr. Superintendent and Governor, we did it, it's over here in the portfolio, so if anybody asks, we can show we did it. we found that the districts that were really doing that and letting that data inform their practices and created that safe space for educators and their staff to say, hey, it's something going on here. Like, here's the tip of the iceberg, but we know what really forms the iceberg is that big block underneath. I can't say enough about the 5 Essential Survey and how it can inform that practice. And we did start seeing a lot of districts, they wanted to share their stories with us. And like they did like attendance, teacher attendance, student attendance, like which one is going to be higher? And the students loved it. They really did. So then you had that incentive for both the teachers and the students as well. But there definitely is a correlation. And that means when we want to dig to find the root cause of students being absent, as an administrator, we were encouraging district superintendents, principals to dig into that root cause as to why teachers may not be present as well. I'm going to do, Dr. Holyfield, I'm going to do in the back. I'm sorry to point, but I'm just going to point and then, yep.
So I took that apart, and you have a question about what could be helped from a state perspective, like what could be for state provide, but I'm also really curious at the local level, is there an opportunity to collaborate with other like local or even regional agencies and offices too? So it's not just like it's on the tools that has to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, up where 214 is, there's a place called North Cook Academy. Some of you may have heard of it. They have sort of a truancy program that we partner with them, and we have a group called ALOP also that helps a lot with that. It helps the family more. And then when I was at Morton West, it was called West 40. For those of you that know Tapestry in West 40. But Youth Crossroads is another one in the West 40 area. And that is key to get those outside agencies to kind of leverage all strengths, because as we said, no one of us is fixing attendance on their own. I mean, it's so complex now. It takes team effort in the building, out of the building. When, thankfully that sometimes those referrals don't go as far as you would hope, but some of them do, and that's why it's always good to at least do them and see which ones kind of grow and then help the family.
We also wanted to spend a lot of time during the attendance commission to really change the mindset of truant officers. And so we really found that out when we had to switch to virtual, because the greatest impact were the ICERI and the TAOPS of our state. They knew where those families were. They were the ones that really knew that touch point of saying, hey, we need to go and check on Jane Doe, John Doe. It was them. And so really lifting that paradigm shift of, when I was growing up in the hole punch days, Mr. Truant Officer, it really is the person that has that touch point on, hey, you know what, I think something is going on over in such and such community or in such and such family. This is what we're hearing from the community. So that's a big piece of the storytelling that helps what's happening in a building know how to go outside in the community and bring in those resources. And business owners want to help. We heard so many times, like, we need people who are hireable. And what we know is that if they are not attending well in school, they're not going to attend well in college, and then they get to be employed and they don't attend well. And so there is really data to show around that. So reach out to your community partners and help you tell the stories as well. I thought you said you had a two-part. Did we get the state side?
Yeah. Sure.
So we know that the state is recognizing, as many other states are and state education agencies, that something in a coalesced, unified way needs to be done. Those conversations are happening now. We will see where it lands. I will say, and like I'm looking at Sam now, like, Okay, we know that this is going to be a starting point of that, creating some type of a hub or something. We don't have a name for it or anything yet. And I love that because Learning Forward, actually a couple of years ago, they actually came out and said, if you do a conference and you do professional development that doesn't have some type of follow-up, it should be considered a crime, right? Because you get all this passion and then people leave like, wasn't the conference great? It sure was. See you around the corner, right? So there is going to be like a next step to this. I am speaking that the policy.
And on Monday, the Success Network Policy Committee is having a quarterly meeting, and Antoinette will be part of that agenda talking about continuing this conversation. And, again, this presentation, along with all the other conference presentations, will be on the Success Network conference website. And again, as this topic evolves, the Success Network can be a home, a hub, that be a resource for that today. So,
and I did look up where the communities within the network are. And because this is that kind of, if you work like, UBD, working backwards, if we want children to be college and career ready, what does college and career ready look like? And then we can work our way backwards from there. So college and career ready, what does that look like in high school? What does that look like in middle school? What does that look like in elementary school? Oh, what does that look like in preschool for all expansion? So I've already done, I'm a researcher in I just can't help it. I've already started overlaying, look at where the success networks are and the preschool for all and PFAE programs are. Look at where the Success Network are and look at the businesses that might be around there. So there's a lot of overlaying that can be done to really expand this conversation. So we'll see where it goes on a broader statewide level. But, baby steps. This is a really great first step. And forming the legislative body is what we do. And so as we're having those conversations of what, if any, next step should be, collecting this information is going to be really helpful so that we address it in a positive way. We don't want teachers to feel like, well, now they're asking about teacher attendance. Why are they picking on us? We got enough stuff that we don't have the whole punch anymore. We got 14 different codes we got to figure out. And then my Danielson framework, here come the people doing my observation. I got a pre and a post and all that. Oh, and now we got assessments. Now they want to know why I'm not in school. I'm tired. That's why I'm not here. Are you kidding me? So we want it to be in the most positive way that we address this, and that will keep the conversation open and safe so that as stories are shared, we can really seek and share wisdom from each other. Dr. Holyfield.
More quick things. As a principal of Freeport High School, one of the things we rely heavily on Will County ROE because we have some wonderful people there. Because I started saying these parents are going to meet with me and my whole administrative team because I have 12 administrators in the high school. We're splitting this list. They're coming in, but the ROE said, if you can't do it, give us a space to work in your building. We'll hold the meetings for you and get some of these contracts issued. Second thing, to your point, we're a unit district, so we have our early childhood.
Yeah.
Middle school, high school. I'm the principal of the high school, and the alternative school. What you were just talking about, I told them the same way with curriculum. These are the same students that came through here. Let's track this attendance over time.
Yeah.
What do you want to be when they end? So let's start planning for when they start so that we don't lose track. Third thing, 5E Central. One thing I'm glad about with it being part of the school report card or whatever assessment that they changed the indicators from all these blues where parents couldn't understand. Now it's red, yellow, so they understand. In the past, I think in Chicago, we hid from it because we had blues. They didn't know what the data meant. Now that it's red, we know red is bad. Once that changed, a lot of schools now are using this to inform their school improvement plans. If they're not, then it's just a joke. For that document to live on HF, you're not going to change school.
It's a
So, superintendent, the strategic plan should be the 5E Central. Have conflicting metrics that we're using here, everything. Those 5 things shape schools, period.
And I think the period is what we really found during the attendance commission. And when we were having our meetings, we were hearing that it's not just one thing. That's not one person. It's not one group. It's not just one thing. When children aren't showing up, there's a reason for it. And sometimes it's something that we do need to have a meeting about it. If there's something going on in the community and people are afraid to leave their homes, we don't care how many of them is like, you can mark them chronic absence from here till kingdom come. My baby's not leaving, and the baby can be 18. My son is 36. When you gonna stop calling me baby? Never, right? My baby's not leaving the home because they're fearful. We had stories coming back to us like, guess what? Folks' water isn't on. The gas has been cut off. And so they're not sending their children to school unclean because then that sets them up for bullying. And, so many different things. And the long arm only reaches so far. But knowing those things is when, as you mitigate it, you're not just marking it on, well, they were chronically absent. And that means, 10% of any day is excused, unexcused, or truant. Okay, but why? Let's dig into that. Let's pull out. Let's keep pulling out. And then find that, I like to call that diamond in the rough. And those conversations sometimes will lead you to, look at that. What is going on in third grade? Because we got a lot of children being absent in third grade. And then look at that. Look at our math scores. What's happening in third grade with all this attendance or chronic absenteeism going up? And then math scores are looking kind of funny. That's a great conversation to have. It may have started because we're looking at chronic absence, but then it might lead to, our teachers need some more professional learning support around math. We can get in there and find those root causes that help us answer a plethora of questions just instead of just, well, they need to be here. And if they're not, we just got to mark them in the book, right? Anything else? And then if not, I'm going to kind of shift to asking you all to please continue to share out with us what you are doing, what you would hope to see happen statewide, what you would hope to see happen next. And I'm thinking about if we give ourselves homework, who wants that? Okay. But if we were to give ourselves to say, by this same time next year, if we were all sitting in this same room, what would be our progress report? What did we go back and tell anybody in our district or in our community? Did we go back and say, hey, how are we connecting with our early childhood colleagues? How are we connecting with our faith-based colleagues who have captive audiences? And I know that doesn't sound like the right, but really and truly, your faith-based community partners have consistent, right? Even during the pandemic, switching from that physical space to that virtual space, it was consistent. They have those families there. What are we doing with our after-school partners? We found out a lot of children would go to school just so they could go to after school. Right? They knew they couldn't go to after school if they weren't in school. So if we were to think about that, where it needs to go, I would call it what would be our do now and what would be our, hey, if we came back here a year from now, what will be our progress report? So what could be our do now?
So I come here as a community partner, actually, and I do substance misuse prevention education within high school. And I know that's one particular thing when it comes to chronic absenteeism, chronic tardiness. Is like these kids are stressed, they're having mental health concerns, and they're trying to go students, and this is what they've gotten their hands on. One thing that I think that we could all do is honestly reach out to 3 other partners that seem very unconventional to partner with the school. I come from Chestnut Health Systems, right? And normally you think, yeah, they do mental health and they do clinical stuff, but we do stuff in high school. We have stuff that are for teens. We have programming that's starting to be developed that could possibly go into middle schools and maybe partner with someone to go into elementary school. Because we're starting to see substance use and access as early as 5th grade. But
Jiminy Christmas.
Starting to partner and get that early, like she's in there and see what that looks like, what the protocols look like. Because 5th grade, we talk to a snippet in the 12th. But yeah, that could be a do now.
I love that. And so that's our homework. The do now is we're thinking of 3 people, whether it's an agency, an organization, a faith-based, whatever, that we haven't really talked to, and we're going to connect with them. Let's see, it's February by spring break. Okay? We finish at 4:50. Oh, we got a couple more minutes. Any more do now? I really love that one because it's so easy to say, well, we spread a broad net, but did we really talk to everyone? Any other do now? And then I'm going to share something from the students that were here before this session. Any other do now that we can use. And you know how it is when we were in schools, like, what's she up there telling them, giving us some homework? Let's meet her in the, parking lot after school. Yes, you do have homework. Reese Wilson, throw Reese under the bus. Yes, right here.
So we are from Avant, so we are the city limits. There was statewide access to an effort. We have 5 parts all for the United States. And as we were talking, I think that for me, I provide textual assistance. I'm always trying to find a way to bridge gaps between in school and out school time programs. And I'm really thinking about what that centralized language is, because for a lot of our after school programs, they are monitoring grades, but they are also monitoring in-school attendance. So how do we cultivate those partnerships between those 2 teams to kind of support one another and identify the services and additional supports that could be offered to you in the out of school time space? Because as you said, a lot of kids want to be in in after school, so they are attending, but taking it a step further and I think you watch you and we sure you do it. So you think I know I just got you on camera, Susan Stanton. Anyway, no.
Really comrade in arms on this initiative for a whole lot more. So I just love. In fact, I was just emailing me the other day, Antoinette, we need to talk. I was like, I already know what it's about. So yeah, let's set up a meeting. Absolutely love saying that. So thank you. After school is so important. And if who is your community after school partners? Have you reached out to all of them, right? It might be those, and I keep saying faith-based, right? A lot of faith-based programs have after-school programs. A lot of them have those before and after care, where they might have a early childhood program that's 3 to 6 years old, but before school starts and after school, they have before and after school programs. So those are some of the partners that we can reach out to. I just want to close us out with the students that were in here before, and I told them, I said, I'm going to mention your names again: Kendall Sparks, Mass Boyd, and Rowan Smith. One of the things they said is, people don't talk to us enough. They talk at us, they give us directives, but they don't talk to us. We could tell them why we're not in school. We could tell them what's going on with, college and technical, and when they said that, the one student, Kendall, she actually rose her hand and said, chronic absenteeism is a big problem for us. And I was sitting in the back, like, that's the next session. And so, and just gave this specific why it was a problem for them. And then we want to do something about it. We need the help from the adults. And they kept saying principals that come out of their offices are effective. Superintendents that leave that space in the district and come into the buildings and walk around are effective. Talk to them. So I shared with them a story. And when it was of the, are you kidding, Dr. Taylor? The University of Chicago actually did a study on chronic absenteeism. It was specific to Chicago. And it was very based in high school, and it was all around what happens if everybody in the building knows we are targeting this over the next year. And it was like the engineer, the bus attendant, the front office, the cafegimatorium people, right? Everybody knew that they were doing these studies across a few schools in Chicago. What would happen with attendance? It went up. This is how much money they spent. It was just saying, okay, does everybody know what our policies are? Can we articulate them? Do the students know? And I will close with this. There was this one student that was really having a problem with attendance in math. Now, the problem was the student was in every other class before and after math. So from this awareness of like what's going on, guess whose girlfriend had lunch when they had math? Yeah. So the student was like, I'm going into the lunchroom with my friend and not going to math. They literally went to the student and said, hey, you got to go to math. And the student was like, okay. Like that. Like, what? We solved the problem. Just by talking to the student, just by that awareness of somebody saying, no, what do you mean? He didn't leave the building. We see him all the time in the lunchroom. But he doesn't have lunch during that time. He's supposed to be in math. Oh, really? Let's just talk to him. So the simplest things can help. Don't be afraid to do simple things. And then don't be afraid to do the hard things either.
Thank you. Feel remarkable to As we know, it was on earlier today on some of the other slides, and it's on the Success Network website. But again, on Monday, March 3rd, is the policy committee of the Success Network, and Antoinette will be talking more on this topic, sharing. We have resources. Again, that's all going to be part of the PowerPoint that you can get. But again, complete the conference evaluation, especially if you need PD hours. You can do it online. I do have some paper ones for those who like paper. So, to open but yeah, some that again. Thank you all again for your sharing your expertise. Thank you for participating, being here to the end. Really appreciate that and showing your commitment. So again, thank you. And again, evaluation important part.
Safe travels home. Thank you all for staying.
Continue to see.